It's now 6 o'clock right here on Big Breakfast. Today FM, today's hit music.
Hey, I'm Pauline.
And I'm Alan. Tune in to The Breakfast Show on Today FM with Pauline and I every weekday morning.
From 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Right here on Today FM, today's hit music.
Today FM, today's hit music.
This is FBC News. I'm Jackie Spate. In this bulletin, Opposition MP wants Privileges Committee deliberations suspended over AG's inclusion as committee member. FICAC investigates supermarkets at 4 major correction centres around the country. And more disruptions to international flights as damaged Fiji Airways plane undergoes repair overseas. Opposition MP Tupon Ranindalo has asked that the deliberations of the Privileges Committee be suspended after questioning the inclusion of one of the members in the committee. The committee is deliberating on a complaint against SEDELPA member Ratunaingama Lalambalavu. Edwin Nund reports.
Opposition members have an issue with Attorney General Aya Syed Kayum being part of the Privileges Committee, since he's the one who raised the complaint.
Where was the Honourable Attorney General in the meeting yesterday to construct the terms of reference? I think the report is to come back, Madam Speaker. They have breached your ruling, Madam Speaker. They have breached your ruling.
In response, Syed Kayum says the committee will work on the evidence that has been presented.
The Privileges Committee, Madam Speaker, will actually establish whether there's been a breach of the privilege or not. There was a terms of reference that was given to given by the Secretariat to the Privileges Committee. There was also a timetable given to the Secretariat, to the Privileges Committee by the Secretariat. And we had agreed that we'll proceed on that basis.
Opposition MP Tupon Ranindalo also asked for a ruling from the Speaker on whether the Attorney General should be in the committee.
We ask you to exercise your powers to suspend the deliberations of the committee until you have decided and given your ruling on whether or not a complainant, not just anybody, any member of the government, but the complainant can sit in judgment of the person accused.
Obviously, the motion was moved from this side of the House because we believed in that particular motion. So by logical flow, therefore everybody in this side of the House, including those people in that corner, support the motion, and therefore what he's saying is that they should not be sitting in the Privileges Committee. So, Madam Speaker, obviously when the committee meets, it will objectively look at the various information, the evidence, etc. that will be put before it, and they'll come to a conclusion.
Dr. Chikoluveni informed the House that she will consider the issue and come back with a decision at a later sitting. The Privileges Committee met again this afternoon to view the evidence against Ratunaingama, who is alleged to have used a slur in reference to the Speaker, Dr. Chikoluveni. The committee is tasked with making recommendations to Parliament by Thursday on whether there should be sanctions against Ratunaingama. Edwin Nund, FBC News.
Opposition MP Semesa Karavaki today raised 2 matters of privilege against the Attorney General Aya Syed Kayum to Speaker of Parliament Dr. Chikoluveni this morning. In the first point of order, Karavaki told the Speaker he has evidence that the AG had used vulgar language in the House. He requested that he be allowed to produce evidence for a possible pathway to be made that will ensure that the dignity of the House is preserved. Karavaki later on told the Speaker he has evidence that the AG has made comments to the media on the rezoning of the Shirley Park, therefore interfering with the work of the Standing Committee on Natural Resources, who are still working on the petition against the rezoning.
Not only that, Madam Speaker, there is also evidence that he communicated to a particular person while the work was being carried out that the subdivision of Shirley Park will still go ahead despite the work the Standing Committee was carrying out, was doing.
Karavaki is to present his evidence to the Speaker's chambers before she makes a ruling. Meanwhile, the Standing Committee on Natural Resources Committee has tabled its report on the petition to stop any attempts to rezone any part of Shirley Park in Lautoka. Committee Chair Government MP Chaweli Thawaki says they have made 2 recommendations in the 64-page report. The committee has previously held various consultations and calls for submissions since February this year.
Madam Speaker, the committee, in undertaking this work in a bipartisan way, and the House should take confidence that the 2 recommendations in this report, in this first report, Madam Speaker, were unanimous.
The Town and Country Planning Department had issued a public notice 2 weeks ago giving approval to the proposed rezoning. 1/3 of Shirley Park on the waterfront is to be rezoned from civic use to special use, mainly tourism. FICAC is currently investigating the supermarkets at the 4 major correction centres around the country. This was revealed in Parliament today by the Attorney General Ayasaid Kayum. Ali Kimbia has more.
It is common knowledge that almost all major prison centres in the country have established supermarkets, but it is not clear on whether they are government or privately owned.
Could the Minister inform the House as to who owns these supermarkets? Is it the government or is it privately owned or both?
It has been confirmed that the general operation of the supermarket located at the correction centres in Suva, Namboro, Natambua and Lambasa are under investigation.
It would be prudent for me to comment any further as it might jeopardize or taint the investigation that's currently on foot, but the member can be rest assured that there has been complaints lodged pertaining to some general functions, and we'll obviously bring it to the attention of the House once the matter has been concluded, either by way of charges being laid or by way of any other report that may come out of these investigations.
Syed Kayum says there is no time frame yet as to when the investigation report will be completed. Ali Kimbia, FBC News.
The accident that caused substantial damage to a Fiji Airways Airbus 330 plane over the weekend will continue to disrupt international flights until further notice, as the plane flew out overseas for repairs early this morning. An ATS load on Saturday night backed into the cargo section of Fiji Airways Namukailau aircraft. The full flight was ready to take off to Los Angeles. ATS CEO Hare Mani confirms that the ATS preliminary report into the incident was delivered to Fiji Airways last night. Mani also says his team was finalizing the main and final report, which was to be delivered to Fiji Airways by 5 p.m. today. The Namukailau was seen at the Fiji Airways hangar in Nadi yesterday. Fiji Airways confirmed to FBC News that the plane departed early this morning for urgent repair work. However, they would not disclose the destination. The plane requires extensive repairs to its cargo section, and cost for this is expected to be huge. Last year, a hard landing cost the national carrier $8.6 million, which was not covered by insurance. It's yet to be determined as to who will be responsible for costs related to damages caused on Saturday. This is peak time for air travel, and the accident continues to cause huge disruptions and inconvenience. Customers flying on Fiji Airways this week are expected to encounter delays or schedule changes as the airline works to minimize the impact of the incident. Jackie Spate, FBC News. Coming up after the break, Fijian troops, part of the Labour Corps that served in Europe during World War I, remembered in 100th year anniversary.
Oya wa watisoni dalai. Gonga ya mozidongo. Nama kikirau mena tolu kene bitu. Ena via kabi moliti kene porombuka. Gori ana lali ne kabi. Bula FM namba 2 ena sere.
The Standing Committee on Justice, Law and Human Rights tabled a committee report on the company's bill in Parliament this morning. Committee Chair Ashnil Sudhakar says work on drafting the new bill started in 2010 with public consultations. It was put before the committee for scrutiny in February, which included receiving oral and written submissions. Sudhakar says the government is of the view that the new company's bill should reflect best international practice made to suit the local market.
There has to be a good balance between commercial reasoning and public policy in any law dealing with companies. It is for those reasons that the laws regulating functioning of the companies and businesses are essential for any country. The current Companies Act applicable in Fiji is over 30 years old, which itself was based on much older UK laws. Therefore, our law is more than half a century old.
The Ministry of Defence held a commemorative service for the Fiji Labour Corps in the first Fiji reinforcement to World War I at the National War Memorial at Nasese Suva this morning. Watisoni Raikandroka was at the celebration with this report.
Today's celebration marks the 100th year anniversary of the Fijians who were part of the Labour Corps that served in Europe during the World War I.
1st Battalion were tasked to go to Europe for the war. It's mainly the Europeans who went, but there were eagerness from the local population, the Tokay, the Indians, and other races to be part of the contingent and how they can help.
The Labour Corps were not deployed to frontline combat, but only helped in areas such as unloading of ships and planes. President of the Ex-Servicemen Associations, Ratupeni Bolabola, says there should be more awareness programs done for our young people so they are well versed with the role Fijian soldiers played in the World War.
In the First World War, which we know so very little of, there were Fijians who took part and shed their blood. You know, they made the sacrifices to right back to First World War, and that's very significant.
Some members FBC News spoke to heaped praises on the efforts of the soldiers.
I'm so thankful for the government for coming up with a commemoration for World War I soldiers, because we always commemorating World War II soldiers every time.
I'm so thankful for the government in remembering those men who sacrificed their life for the country and their families.
About 200 people, including senior government officials, members of the diplomatic corps, ex-servicemen and families and friends of the soldiers were part of this event this morning. Watisoni Rekanroka, FBC News.
Today, May 19th, marks one of the darkest days in Fiji's history, the coup of George Speight and his rebel group in 2000. 15 years down the line, Ritika Pratap looks back at how the events of that fateful year almost destroyed our country.
The coup is akin to the 87 coup in many ways. It tried to mobilize people on an ethno-nationalist and divisive basis. The push triggered a whole lot of instability in the country. Rural ethnic Fijians, particularly in selected areas, thought that this was the time for them to assert themselves. Rural indigenous Fijians' dissatisfaction with their situation in terms of not getting benefits of development that the rest of Fiji had, and particularly perceived in ethnic ways, that rural indigenous Fijians were not benefiting.
Some years later, the man who many believe came to the rescue of the nation by removing a corrupt and racist government in 2006 was vindicated by becoming Fiji's newest elected Prime Minister under a non-racial constitution that recognizes everyone in Fiji as Fijians in a first for our small island nation. Bainimarama has promised time and again there will be no repeat of the events of May and November 2000. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
Sports is up next. Here's Jamie with the latest.
Nakataki, and good evening. Coming up, celebrations for Fiji's 7th side set for Thursday
and Vodafone Fiji and FBC sign agreement today to bring you live coverage of the 2015 Rugby World Cup. This and more after the break.
छू 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 हे हे नमस्ते फीजी, आपके हर एक प्रॉब्लम की दवा लेकर मैं आ गई हूँ 9 से 12 बजे तक आपकी सहेली रेनू। छू 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 40 में 20 का दिखना है। मैं हूँ ना आपके साथ में मिर्ची एफएम पर 9 से 12 बजे तक मंडे टू फ्राइडे। मिर्ची इट्स हॉट।
As expected, preparations are underway to celebrate the victorious Vodafone Fiji 7th triumph at the World 7 Series. The Fiji Rugby Union and its major sponsor, Vodafone Fiji, will host the team at Albert Park in Suva on Thursday, and members of the public are urged to turn up in numbers.
Yeah, the team hopefully arrives into Suva at about 3 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, and will march to Albert Park. With the support of consortium partners, they will be marching with the team, and anyone who wants to join the team.
Vodafone have also confirmed that the players will share a hefty bonus amount for their achievements.
20,000 for Glasgow win. London was third place, which was 8,000. Am I right? Yes. Yeah, 8,000. And the IRB series win is 50,000. So in combination, there will be 78,000 paid out for those 2 weekends.
The Fiji 7 side will touch down at Nandi International Airport at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, Fiji 7's coach Ben Ryan is taking a well-deserved break in England after a hectic World 7 series and will not return to Fiji with the national side tomorrow. Ryan, who masterminded Fiji's second World Series win after 9 years, will be taking some time out before returning to Fiji next month to start preparations for the Pacific Games. Meanwhile, the mentor says his players will get some time off as well.
Yeah, once they get home to Fiji, they'll be on a full drink span. That'll be difficult tonight to enforce, but I'll do my best. They'll go back to Fiji, and I've got a few weeks back at home in West London, Brentford, beautiful Brentford, and we'll spend some time with family and chill out a bit.
Great news for those who have never been able to watch TV coverage of the Rugby World Cup in the past. Vodafone Fiji today signed a partnership agreement with Fiji Broadcasting Corporation to air coverage of the 2015 Rugby World Cup on FBC TV. The partnership will see viewers watch rugby's biggest event on free-to-air television, which includes 48 live matches. Talent Dakadaka with the details.
Vodafone Fiji and the Fiji Broadcasting Corporation have teamed up to bring the Rugby World Cup to FBC TV.
Partnering with FBC, the powerhouse in broadcasting, Vodafone will be able to connect all Fijians together in a passionate sport of rugby. FBC TV will be able to reach all rugby enthusiasts throughout the country.
They will broadcast all 48 matches of the World Cup, including all pool games and finals matches.
There will be build-up of Fiji's games at least, and also build up from our studios for the semi-finals and finals, and we are hopeful that the Fijian team will at least make it up to the semi-finals. And you know, Fiji's on a high at the moment with the 7's win.
The Vodafone Flying Fijians will be taking on host England in the opening game on September 18th, and FBC feels there is no better tool for nation building.
Although rugby has united Fiji for quite a while now, we're taking it even further in terms of our coverage. So, you know, people in Rakiraki who were not able to see television before, you know, Coke games, they were not able to see EPL, they were not able to see the Rugby Sevens and the World Cup, will now be able to see it. People in Korovo, Yasawas, Mamanudas, parts of Taviuni, Kandavu, some islands in the Loma Iviti group.
With the FBC reaching of 94% coverage around the country, this partnership will bring the Rugby World Cup coverage to areas where it has never been televised before. After all, the slogan of "You are number one with us" is for a reason. Talento Dakavak, FBC Sports.
The Vodafone Fiji Under-20 football side is looking at playing one more warm-up match before the FIFA World Cup. The team lost narrowly 2-1 to Colombia in its second build-up match in Australia after having lost 3-0 to Mexico last week. Team coach Frank Farina, speaking to FBC Sports from Australia, says he's impressed with the showing by his players and that another match will help.
Well, look, we're hoping to get another game in New Zealand. That would be fantastic, just to top up the game preparation. But look, we'll be training hard, particularly in the first week that we're in New Zealand. A lot on conditioning, match conditioning, because the boys, they're looking good at the moment. But I want to get them in peak physical condition for when we do actually start the World Cup. So hopefully, if we can throw in one game there, that would be great.
The side departs for New Zealand today, where it will set up camp in Auckland until next Thursday before flying off to Christchurch. Fiji plays Germany in its World Cup opener at 1 p.m. on June 1st. That's it from Sports Tonight. Good evening.
Secretary-General of the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, Dame Meg Taylor, says it's unacceptable for the European Commission to propose to defer negotiations on the Economic Partnership Agreement. The SG says she is disappointed the EC has chosen to do this without formal political dialogue, and particularly given its previous assurance to Pacific leaders in 2014. The EC has not met the Pacific region for negotiations with Pacific ACP trade ministers since 2007 and at senior official level since October 2013. Taylor is disappointed at the EC's continued attempts to get the bigger Pacific Island nations to sign on to an interim EPA, leaving the smaller island states vulnerable. It was a clear, cool day across the country today with brisk southerly winds affecting Fiji. This morning, Suva notched a cool 18 degrees early this morning as temperatures rose during the day and maximums remained below 30 degrees. Suva, Savu and Lambasa could only manage to hit 26. Tonight, temperatures are expected to drop to as low as 15 degrees in Lautoka and Ba. Fine weather should prevail over most parts of the country tomorrow, with a chance of showers and a few cloudy periods in the capital city. The further outlook, fine apart from brief showers over the interior and eastern parts of the larger islands, cool at night, rough seas. And recapping our top stories, Opposition MP Tapon Ranindalo wants Privileges Committee deliberations suspended over AG's inclusion as committee member. FICAC investigates supermarkets at 4 major correction centres around the country, and more disruptions to international flights as damaged Fiji Airways plane undergoes repair overseas. Now to our poll question this week, we're asking, should nightclub opening hours be reviewed? Visit our FBC website to take part. Remember, you can send us newsworthy pictures and videos on email citizenseyes@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via Facebook page FBC News. And if you're on Twitter, follow and tweet us your news tips at FBC_news or simply hashtag FBC News. You've been watching FBC News. I'm Jackie Spate. Good night.
Sarwandoro na kaloko na Radio Fiji 1 ndo mwibiki na buongani binyano. Nisambula binaka na ngono boro taki ni rongo sere na ngono ni ndreko malolo. Nisambula binaka. Oye wa meli kilani. Ningi nama kati umena nungu bengi rawi maina moni tiki na warombuka na rua kina wana kaloko na ngono ni rongo mani vesana. Waki na wono na ngono ni rongo sere na Radio Fiji 1 na ndo mwibiki na buongani binyano yanu.